What if the most powerful force shaping your life is something you have never directly seen, something so constant, so woven into reality that you mistake it for background noise? Time does not move the way you think it does. It does not pass evenly inside your mind. It stretches, compresses, dissolves, and accelerates depending on where your attention rests. Clocks measure seconds, but your brain does not. Your experience of time is constructed moment by moment, and that construction determines whether life feels rich or empty, fast or slow, meaningful or mechanical. As a child, summers felt endless. A single afternoon could contain an entire world. Now weeks disappear without texture. Months collapse into memory like a single blurred frame. The common explanation is responsibility. Adults are busier, schedules are tighter. But neuroscience suggests something more fundamental. The brain measures time not by absolute duration, but by the number of novel memories it encodes. When experiences are new, the hippocampus works intensely, forming fresh neural patterns. More memory markers are created. When you later look back, the density of these markers makes the period feel longer. Childhood is full of firsts: first school, first friendships, first discoveries. The brain is mapping reality at high resolution. Adulthood becomes repetitive: commutes, routines, familiar environments, repeated conversations. The brain shifts into predictive mode. Instead of encoding detail, it compresses it. It relies on pattern recognition rather than active mapping. Fewer memory markers are stored. When you look back, the period feels short, not because it was short, but because it lacked distinct encoding. Time did not speed up. Your brain recorded less of it. This creates a strange paradox. The more efficient your life becomes, the faster it seems to disappear. Efficiency reduces novelty. Novelty expands perceived duration. That is why travel feels longer than routine, even when the trip lasts only days. The unfamiliar forces attention outward. Attention expands time. Attention is the real currency of temporal experience. When you are fully absorbed in a task, hours can pass unnoticed. This is often described as flow. In that state, the prefrontal cortex reduces self-monitoring. You stop tracking time explicitly. The moment feels immersive. Later, however, the memory of that period can feel either long or short, depending on how much new information was processed. Time in the present and time in memory are separate constructions. There is also the emotional dimension. Fear slows time. During an accident or sudden shock, many people report events unfolding in slow motion. This is not because the world slowed, but because the amygdala heightened awareness. The brain recorded more detail per second, increasing memory density. Joy can have a similar effect, but without threat. High emotional intensity increases encoding resolution. On the opposite side, boredom creates distortion. When waiting in a silent room with nothing to stimulate attention, seconds feel heavy. You monitor the passage of time directly. The brain has little external input, so it loops internally. Each second is examined, which makes it feel longer in the moment. Yet when you later remember that period, it feels short because nothing distinct was encoded. Boredom stretches the present and erases the past. Technology complicates this further. Digital environments are engineered to fragment attention. Notifications, scrolling feeds, rapid content shifts. Each microstimulus resets focus but rarely provides depth. The brain receives constant novelty without meaningful encoding. It feels busy but not rich. Hours vanish yet leave little behind. The day felt full but memory feels empty. There is also a mathematical component hidden in aging. Each year becomes a smaller fraction of your total lived experience. For a 5-year-old, 1 year represents 20% of existence. For a 50-year-old, it represents 2%. Subjectively, the brain may anchor duration relative to total memory span. As the archive grows, each new segment occupies proportionally less space, but there is something deeper than mathematics happening. The brain is predictive. It seeks stability. Once patterns are learned, it conserves energy by automating behavior. Automation reduces conscious awareness, and awareness is what gives time texture. When you drive a familiar route, you often arrive without recalling the journey. The body moved, the brain predicted, and the moment left no imprint. This reveals a quiet truth. Life does not shrink, awareness does. Reintroducing novelty does not require extreme change. It requires deliberate disruption of autopilot. Changing routes, learning new skills, exploring unfamiliar environments, even small variations in routine increase encoding activity. The brain wakes up, time regains dimension. Mindfulness operates on a similar principle. By paying close attention to sensory detail, breath, sound, movement, you increase present moment resolution. You are telling the brain, this is worth recording. Moments become distinct rather than blended. There is also the role of narrative. Humans understand life through story. Events connected to meaning are remembered more vividly. When experiences feel purposeless, they blur. Purpose acts as a binding agent, linking moments together. Without narrative cohesion, time fragments. Consider how major life transitions feel. Graduations, relocations, new relationships, losses. These periods are dense with change and emotion. They feel long in retrospect because identity itself was updating. Identity shifts require new neural mapping, and new mapping expands perceived time. The illusion of acceleration in adulthood is therefore not a curse but a signal. It signals stabilization, predictability, repetition. The brain is no longer forced to adapt constantly. While this creates efficiency, it reduces temporal richness. Understanding this shifts the question from why is time speeding up to how am I allocating attention? Because attention determines encoding, and encoding determines perceived duration. Every morning you wake up, you are handed the same 24 hours as everyone else, but not everyone experiences 24 hours the same way. One person moves through the day on autopilot, inbox, meeting, dinner, screen, sleep. They arrive at Sunday night and feel vaguely cheated. Where did the week go? Another person breaks their pattern. They take a different road. They learn something uncomfortable. They sit with silence long enough to notice what rises from it. Their week feels full, textured, alive. The difference is not effort, it is encoding. And here is the harder truth. Most of us are not lazy, we are optimized. We have built systems to reduce friction. And friction, it turns out, is one of the primary mechanisms through which the brain marks time as real. Remove all friction and life becomes frictionless and forgettable. There's also something worth examining about connection. Shared experiences with other people create layered memory. When you experience something meaningful alongside someone else, the memory is encoded with social context, their reaction, their expression, the moment they laughed or went quiet. Social encoding deepens the imprint. This is one reason why isolated periods of life, even productive ones, can feel strangely thin in retrospect. Productivity without connection leaves light footprints. Sleep matters here too. Memory consolidation happens during sleep. The brain replays the events of the day and transfers them from short-term to long-term storage. When sleep is poor or fragmented, consolidation fails. Experiences that were not fully consolidated feel more distant, more compressed, less yours. A life half remembered is a life half lived. And then there is the question of what you are building toward. Humans are goal-oriented by design. When we are moving towards something meaningful, a project, a relationship, a skill, a vision, time organizes itself around that direction. The brain structures its encoding in relation to progress. Days feel purposeful because they are chapters in a developing story. Remove the goal and the days become loose pages, still present but unbound. This is perhaps the most underestimated factor in temporal experience. Meaning is not just emotional, it is architectural. It structures how the brain files experience. With meaning, time has shape. Without it, time has only volume. So what does this all add up to? It adds up to a radical form of responsibility, not the kind that fills your calendar, the kind that asks you to show up inside your own life, to resist the seduction of the passive, the endless scroll, the familiar comfort, the path of least resistance. Not because comfort is wrong, but because a life lived entirely in comfort is a life the brain stops bothering to record.